And welcome into Extra Time, a weekly video podcast with Fox 4 and FC Naples, where we take you behind the scenes every week for the first season of professional soccer here in Southwest Florida. I'm Ryan Kruger, and after that long and rough road trip, FC Naples is glad to be home here at the Paradise Coast Sports Complex. Coming up, I'm going to talk to Tony Halterman, goalkeeper on the team, but let's start things off with the GAFA. This was your first extended road trip, long, and, it was tough, two tough losses there. How are you feeling coming off of those?
Yeah, you never want to lose. Obviously, you want to win every game. But I think these are really important moments of opportunities of how we want to define our season. So far in, the start of the season, we showed a lot of resiliency. And now we need to kind of find that and get back to the basic things, our identity that gave us success early on in the season.
This was your first extended road trip and a lot of strange hiccups. Of course, you had the travel delays, which caused the one game to be postponed. Then you had two matches with just a couple of days separated, both of them on the road. Is there just a feeling when you return to Naples, it's like, okay, we're in our environment, maybe we can kind of get things on track?
Yeah, absolutely. Statistically, most teams do better at home. There's also familiarity, getting back into a routine. Players really like routines, and everything about the last few weeks have been abnormal. As you said, the canceled trip, so that changed how we trained and all of those things, and so there's been a lot of just different challenges along the way. But again, that's not an excuse. We need to be adaptable inside of that. But definitely, getting back into a routine this week, having a regular build up to the game at home, knowing we'll play in front of our fans, that definitely helps the feeling of the team for sure.
As we look ahead to the current matches that we have coming up this weekend, a Sunday game, so a little different, but we've got the holiday weekend. Union Omaha. Now, they're the current champions, the reigning champions, but they are a little bit down in the table this year. So what can you tell us about them?
Yeah, they had a decent amount of turnover in their roster, as is typical when you have success at this level. Players earn bigger contracts or go to higher levels, so there's always going to be turnover. Very, very well coached. Consistently one of the top teams in the league over the last few years. Very disciplined, organized. They play a style of soccer that asks a lot of questions from the other team, so it can become very much of a chess match against them. Obviously, they've had some struggles early in the season in scoring goals, but at the same time, in the Open Cup, they beat a championship team, and so they're getting they're playing a good level. Maybe the standings don't reflect it, but they're definitely not a team to overlook by any means.
You mentioned turnover there, and if we look at a broader picture, I imagine as a coach, you're in sort of it's kind of be bittersweet, right? Like obviously you want the success, but with that means that some of your best players are going to get poached. You're going to have these other opportunities. Of course, you're happy for them, right? You want to see them succeed in their career, but selfishly, you're probably also thinking like, oh gosh, I really need you this year. So how do you manage that?
It's just something you have to accept, and it's a good problem. Every team besides the top few teams in the world have this experience, right? If you're the lowest team in the Premier League with a really good striker, a higher team, a Man City, a Real Madrid, something is going to come calling your player. So it's not something unique to this level or our country. And until you're at the very top, people are always trying to find the next best player. So, yeah, it presents challenges. At the same time, it's a reflection of good scouting to find a player like that, good coaching to develop them, and then good on the player for growing and proving their worth and earning that. So, yeah, it's a challenge, but it's a good challenge to have.
We're going to be talking to Tony Halterman coming up. Now, another one of the guys that you have experience with. So you've worked with him for a number of clubs. What can you tell us about him?
Yeah, this is I think my 5th year working with Tony. So in my 3rd club working with him. Tony's great. He's in kind of a unique role this year as a player coach. And obviously he just played on the weekend for his first minutes this season. But Tony's one of those guys that he understands the culture that we're trying to build here. He's a hardworking guy. He's very humble with with things. He never complains when he's asked to do something that maybe is not exactly in his job description. He cares deeply about the young guys on the team. He's really bought into his role of being an older player, and passing on that information experience that he's had to the next generation of footballers coming up.
All right, so Sunday, it's your only home match this month after a long road trip. You guys want to get back on track. What do you need from the fans at Paradise Coast Sports Complex?
Yeah, I think when we have our most success at home, it's when the fans are engaged with us, when they're encouraging the guys, making noise, screaming, shouting, clapping, just making the energy come alive in the stadium is one of the biggest strengths that we have when we play at home, and having the fans kind of be that 12th man for us.
Now I'm joined alongside Tony Halterman, sort of a unique position. So you're both a player and a coach on this team. So tell us about your role with FC Naples.
Yeah. So like you said, I'm a player and coach here. So basically, on the coaching side of things, I handle the goalkeeper coaching on a day-to-day basis. Making sure that our sessions are planned out, working with Gaff and the rest of the staff, trying to coordinate what things are going to look like during the session. Also, big picture, what things are going to look like on the weekend. And then at the same time, I'm in the middle of trainings, taking reps, for the keeper practice. I'm also taking reps, during live training and small sided and things like that. Obviously, as we kind of progress through the week and we get closer to match day, then I sort of taper off my involvement in the small sided things to make sure that whoever is starting for that weekend is, getting their full live action reps and ready to go.
Mm-hmm. But then you also had live minutes yourself this weekend.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I made my USL one debut this past weekend, which was very cool. Very fortunate to be able to do that. It's just exciting, man. I love being able to continue to play the game, and I'm happy to be out here still doing it.
Now you have quite a history with Coach Poland. You're I guess I've been calling it the Chicago Mafia because I keep on interviewing all these guys who came down from they spent time playing in Chicago. So what is your history with the coach?
So Gaff and I worked together for the first time actually over in Finland when he was coaching over at Sporting Christina. He brought me alongside with him, and I was just a goalkeeper there. Kind of fast track. I went through a season in Sweden. He was back in Chicago with Chicago House. Fast forwarded to I think it was 2022. I came in with him to Chicago House. And he said, hey, he kind of took over as a head coaching role, trying to, rebuild the identity of what Chicago House is. Do you want to be a part of it? And I said, absolutely. So stepped in kind of a similar capacity. I was a goalkeeper coach and also playing for him as well.
You kind of glossed over your international experience there. So both playing in Sweden and Finland. Talk to me about that. How was it that you made that decision to go overseas?
So I did spend 4 years in university. Coming out of university, I actually was in preseason with an MLS side. They ended up helping me sign somewhere over on the West Coast and kind of playing in like a reserve league against the Sounders, Timbers, Whitecaps, teams like that. While I was in school, I had an opportunity to go train overseas at Red Star Belgrade for a couple weeks, and then I was finding it difficult for myself to sign here in the States back at that time, when the USL and NASL was big. And I always knew I wanted an opportunity to go overseas. So I got a call one day saying, hey, you've been offered a trial out in Sweden, booked a one-way ticket and said, I'm there now and I'm going to make something happen, whether it's in Sweden or another country. Had friends and family that were out there already. So it was going to be easy for me to kind of move around. Ended up spending about 6 years, I think, in Sweden.
Wow.
Spent half a season in Portugal, spent a season in Finland with Gaff, and then moved back over to the States.
Wow. Yeah, one thing with this FC Naples team we've talked about is it's an international team. It's a dozen different nationalities that are represented, a lot of different languages. But you were once in their shoes, sort of on the opposite end of the ocean. Whereas you were this kid from Indiana who was playing in Sweden. So does that help you sort of bond, especially with some of the international players?
So I think that's one of the most unique things about this sport is the plethora of cultures and languages and everything that are gathered like in the locker room in and of itself. And so it being on the other side of that and kind of, dealing with the language barrier, new cultural shock and things like that. I just think it's so cool being able to learn all of these different things from different people all over the world. I think that's one of the most unique things about our sport. But yeah, you share different experiences with guys that have played overseas, or maybe it's their first time coming to the States or doing things like that. And you guys kind of bond over, well, what was it first like when you went to, this country and, weren't accustomed to things. I think that makes some transition easier, especially for some guys that are just starting off their careers, kind of help guide them in what that looks like.
All right, we'll wrap it up with this. How has your time been so far, being in Naples in Southwest Florida?
It's incredible. Weather is absolutely gorgeous down here. I mean, I liken it to, this is what it was like when I was living down in Portugal. I was in the south of Portugal. So being back in a climate this nice all the time, it's incredible. I've loved every minute of playing and coaching and being able to be a part of what FC Naples is down here.
Join us every week on Extra Time.